Hi, I'm Karen from PECT, and this session is going to be talking all about fuel poverty, how it links to health, and what we can do about it. And it's going to incorporate some energy saving advice, and hopefully you'll find it interesting. And there'll be details at the end of how to get in contact if you need any further help and advice on how, if yourself or anyone that's struggling with fuel poverty can get in contact with us and get some help if they need it. So contents for today is we're going to talk quickly about who we are. We're going to talk about fuel poverty, about the causes and effects of fuel poverty, about who the most vulnerable people are, how we can spot the signs, and what the big energy saving network is, and the advice that we give. So that incorporates some energy saving advice, a little bit about some other schemes, and then further help from related projects. So our service, we're PECT, Peterborough Environment City Trust. We're an independent environmental charity, and we work across 4 areas: natural environment, responsible resource use, education, and health and wellbeing. If you want to find out more about our services or get involved volunteering or doing anything else with us, please do go to our website and take a look. So our energy services that we provide to the general public include training frontline workers about fuel poverty. This is what this video is linked to, and then providing energy saving advice to householders. We communicate engagement around emerging energy technologies, and we also do energy surgeries and events. So fuel poverty, low-income households that cannot afford to heat their homes and meet their energy needs. So we've heard a lot about fuel poverty recently, the fuel crisis, the cost of living crisis, and so on. And I think it's probably worth mentioning at this point that anyone who is living with fuel poverty is probably just living with poverty full stop. They'll be struggling with buying food, they'll perhaps be struggling with buying clothes, school uniforms, and so on. So there's different approaches to measuring fuel poverty, and you can see here the recommended way by the government, but it is a little bit complex. We don't always have an EPC to hand. But generally speaking, if somebody is spending more than 10% of their income on their fuel costs, they'll be living with fuel poverty. And what we like to say is describing an elephant is difficult, but you know it when you see one. So how many people are affected? Well, in England, back in 2020, we had about 3.16 million households, and that's about 30% of all households, fractionally lower than 2019. But with the cost of living crisis yet to hit these figures, National Energy Action estimates that around just over 8 million households could be in fuel poverty by this month as we're recording. And we're still waiting for those figures to come out, but the NEA, which is a national charity that looks after people that are in fuel poverty and campaigns on their behalf, have been quite correct in their estimates before. So what are the causes of fuel poverty? And we're going to be looking at this over the next few slides. So low income, high energy bills, whether our homes are very efficient energy wise, and energy efficiency of our appliances and how we use them. So fuel poverty is caused by a combination of all of these things. High energy costs, low incomes, vulnerable people who are perhaps living in houses that have insufficient insulation and inefficient heating systems. So high bills. So just about everyone's struggling with higher bills at the moment. We know that the fuel cap has been set at around about £2,500. It doesn't mean that bills can't go higher than that, but that's what an average bill is going to be costing someone over the next few months. Paying for fuel is just expensive at the moment. many reasons. If you think about what's going on in Ukraine, the transition to greener energy and so on. But people can be paying an expensive fuel tariff. If somebody's living in a home off the gas network, so a lot of our rural families are living in homes that have oil tanks in the garden rather than having gas. Poor energy performance of a home. So, for instance, I was in Cambridge doing a home visit a couple of weeks ago, and there was a lady there that was living in a listed building. It was a council house, but nonetheless, it was a listed building, so very little that they could do to make the home more energy efficient. Um, Often people aren't using their energy efficiently. I think we perhaps all know somebody that will turn their heating up high and then when they're too hot, open their windows. But it's also around things like people will turn off the lights and open their curtains to let the light in from outside. I've seen that happening. And the issue is that people don't understand that by not closing their curtains, the heat's all going out of the window. And a low energy light bulb costs next to nothing to run. So it's false economy. And we see lots of those kind of scenarios with people that we're able to help them with and put them on the right road. And of course, people are often paying high bills if they've got arrears included in their bills. And arrears aren't always there just because somebody hasn't paid their bill. Often it can be because they haven't put any money on their gas meter over the summer months. And then the standing charge is still outstanding. Again, I had a case in Cambridge a couple of weeks ago where a lady didn't understand why she's got £95 bill when she hadn't been using the gas for months. Um, as said, just because fuel is expensive, but it could also be because people don't keep up to date with their meter readings. It's rare for companies to do meter readings now. We all need to be providing our own. And if we haven't done one for 6 months, 7 months, and the costs have gone up and we've been using more, we can all of a sudden be hit with a really big bill that we weren't expecting. So you can see a couple of illustrations on this slide. Energy performance certificates are really great and they're a really good thing to have, but unfortunately not everyone has one. New homes have to have them, and if you move, you have to have one, but they do go out of date after 10 years. The great thing about them is that whatever, whether you're an A, D, or a G, your EPC will tell you what you can do to improve your home. So it might be that you're sitting on a B rated home, but if you installed solar panels, you could go to an A rating. There's lots of different examples of that. Unfortunately, many of our homes in the UK are D to G. We've got a lot of older stock that isn't very well insulated, that doesn't have up to date heating systems and so on. If you're in a home that's an F or a G, they could be dangerously cold and a risk to your health. Insulation is really important. It's one of the key things you can do, especially now we're into October, getting our homes ready for winter. If you go into your loft and you can see your rafters, you haven't got enough. It's a really good time for doing some clearing out as well. Never mind spring cleaning, do some autumn cleaning and get up in that loft and clear out the year's worth of stuff that you've saved up there that you perhaps don't need. We lose a lot of heat for our windows and doors, and there's not any grants really to help with that. But what you can do is invest in a decent pair of curtains, pull them at night when it gets dark, and you'll save all that heat going out of the windows. We lose heat through our floors as well, and obviously through our walls. If we've got cavity wall insulation or external insulation, that's great. But if we haven't, especially if we've just got solid walls, we can lose a lot of heat through the walls. And again, that's coming back to this older property stock that we've got in this country. So the effects of cold built homes, we are seeing households having to make tough decisions about where they spend their income. We're seeing people having to make heat or eat decisions, and this is leading to all sorts of problems, not just for physical health, but for mental health as well. People can have stress and anxiety about affordable bills, but being cold can have a big impact on our mental health as well. One of the things that I'm quite concerned about, and other energy advisors are concerned about in this upcoming winter, there's a number of people who said they're not going to put heating on. They're going to maybe wrap up more with hot water bottles, hats and gloves and things. But the thing is, if we allow our homes to get cold, we could end up with issues with condensation on cold surfaces. This can lead to damp, which can cause wallpaper to peel. Yeah, and just not a very nice environment, especially if somebody has got respiratory complications. If we give somebody home energy advice, condensation and damp is something that we can talk to them about, and we can try to put some effective solutions in place for that person. The body burns excess levels of calories to keep itself warm. Healthy people are more likely to develop health conditions and worsen existing conditions, and reduced immunity to viruses can happen if we're constantly cold. Now, all of these things, I'm not talking about when you go out in the cold and you get a bit chilly and you come home to your warm house, or you've had your bedroom window open at night because you like a cooler room and you shut it in the morning and put heating on. This is when people can't afford to put their heating on or don't, and are constantly exposed to temperatures of below about 12 or 13 degrees over a regular period of time. Cardiovascular diseases, coronary heart disease, stroke, hypertension, and these happen because when we get cold, our blood can thicken, and that can cause us to have form it can cause us to form thrombosis, which can lead to all of these problems. Respiratory illnesses are the leading cause of death, and usually it's with somebody with an underlying condition, but there's still people that will have survived the winter had they not been cold. And of course, I've already mentioned how this can lead to poor mental health. 30% of our excess winter deaths are caused due to cold homes, and about 10,000 people every year die in England and Wales because of this. If you just think about that number for a minute, 10,000 people, okay, and they may be people with underlying health conditions, they may be people that are older or very young, but really, it's a little bit terrifying to think that many people are dying because they're cold. And as I said, the leading cause is respiratory diseases, but it's also through dementia, which is affected with the cold, and cardiovascular diseases. So the NHS Public Health recommends a daytime temperature of 21 and a nighttime temperature of 18. If we're going below 18, we may increase our blood pressure and risk cardiovascular disease, as I just mentioned. Under 16 degrees may diminish our resistance to respiratory diseases, and between 4 and 8 degrees, there's a risk of hypothermia and a threshold risk of death, really. So you can see how the cold really starts to impact on us. I think as well, and we're moving into winter as we're doing this webinar, but if we think about the summer that we've just had, as energy advisors, we're more and more talking about the impacts on health of extreme temperatures, high temperatures like we've had this year. We had temperatures of 1 point over the summer of 40 degrees. Our thermometers that we have at PECT to show people the temperatures of their home only go up to 27. And this just shows you how extreme the weather conditions are getting and are likely to keep getting. So vulnerable groups. So older people, as we get older, our ability to maintain our temperature decreases. It's harder to stay warm. But also going back to the when people get too warm, dehydration can set in, and this causes confusion, which can be mistaken for dementia. People, when they get cold as well, are likely to have falls. And I think many of us know someone who may have been an older, had some health issues, they've had a fall, and that we lose them not long after that. And it's often because they're living in colder homes. It's not just feeling cold, it's nausea, forgetfulness, and clumsiness that can fit in with older people as well. Vulnerable groups could be people with poor mobility and people with underlying illnesses, and of course, children. So, children get a reduced cognitive ability. They might be struggling to complete homework, and children are not as likely to complain as being cold as adults as well. Um, Another thing that we see with children as well is if they're from a cold home, and any teachers that are watching this or people that work in schools, it's something to look out for. If people are coming in, children are coming in with musty clothes that don't smell so good, they're perhaps not washing so much, they can get picked on by other children, unfortunately. But it is something to watch out for, because it may just be that the parents aren't able to heat their homes as effectively as they might otherwise do if they weren't so vulnerable. So how can you spot the signs of fuel poverty? I think if you're a frontline worker and you're working with people, whoever they may be, it's much easier today to be asking people if they're struggling with their fuel bills and would they like some help. Um, it's a top topic at the moment, the cost of living crisis, the cost of fuel for the home, the cost of fuel for our vehicles, the price of food going up, the price of clothes going up, and so on. And I think it's okay if you're comfortable just to ask someone if they, or explain that there is help available if they need any help. Um, Depending on your relationship with people and how you feel about it. But there's lots of things that you can do to, and ways that you can find to ask people if they need help. And later we'll give you the information of how to refer people in if they do need that help. Some secondary indicators of fuel poverty is that most people don't realise they're in fuel poverty. But if people are in rent arrears, mortgage arrears, if you do go to somebody's home and you can see it's in poor condition, this could all be indicators that somebody is living with fuel poverty as well. There's some other things there that you could maybe ask about, or just, if they're receiving help. We get a lot of people referred to us from the food bank. In turn, we refer people back to the food banks. Like I said at the beginning, it's hard to describe an elephant, but when you see one, you know what it is. So, big energy saving network. So, this project allows us to be able to deliver this energy saving advice. And it's really good because we can identify people's issues and help consumers to save money and keep warmth in their homes this year. And we are giving energy advice to raise awareness of the problems caused by living in the cold and the effect on health and well-being. We want to increase consumer confidence to deal with energy issues and integrate energy advice into the welfare rights offer. So we offer advice around energy efficiency, helping people to sign up to the priority service register. I'll talk about that in a minute. And we can provide assistance with helping people to switch tariff or changing a payment method and making sure that they're aware of the Warm Homes discount. So in our current energy market, suppliers have been going bust. Many of you seeing this will understand that. But did you know that in 2021, so last year, we lost 28 energy suppliers. We've lost over 40 in total. And it's has a knock-on effect of making the market less competitive, but also it makes it very, very difficult to switch. So as energy advisors, we were previously able to switch people to help them, but now there isn't any switching to be had. But can make sure that people are on the best tariff for them and that they're using their energy well. Fixed price deals are really costly. Standard variable rate is generally the cheapest. But if you can get a long-term deal, to ensure stable prices, it might be better. But we can look at this with people on an individual basis and see what's best for them. So I'm going to go on and give some energy advice now, but obviously limited here in terms of what I can talk about, but there's lots of energy advice online, and there's lots of links here that you can go to get energy advice. There's always a few surprises though. Microwaves are very energy efficient. Air fryers are incredibly efficient. They use about half the power and half the time of a conventional oven and cook really well. And you can get things like reduced flow shower heads, which reduce your water percent by up to 25%. So I hope that you appreciate the rooms that we've got on offer here as we go through giving some energy advice for you. So upstairs, so in our attics, as I've already mentioned, if you can see your rafters, you haven't got enough and enough insulation, and insulating our roofs is one of the things that we can generally do ourselves and quite cheaply and easily. But please do offer to help people that are less mobile if they need to get up in their lofts and they can't manage it themselves. But don't forget to insulate your loft hatch. Get some bubble wrap, other things like that that you can use. Somebody gets those food boxes delivered, and there's loads of insulating stuff in there that you could use to stick on. Because if you get one of those the heat guns that we have here at PECT and you shine it on someone's loft, you can see that there's all the insulation up there, except for where that square patch is, and it's just letting the heat out. Get in the habit of drawing your curtains to keep the heat in or out. So open it in the morning, get that solar gain in, and then close them at night, not just when you go to bed. Get them closed at dusk. Get into the habit of going around and closing all your curtains. If you've got a room that you're not using so much, it's okay to keep the temperature turned down low. Don't turn the heating right off, because then you'll end up with those condensation and mold and damp problems. But do keep that room door shut so that the cooler air isn't coming out into the rest of the home. And remember to turn lights off when you're not using them. And of course, use low energy light bulbs. So in our kitchen, hopefully you appreciate my picture of the kitchen here. With an old-fashioned telephone. So if our boiler's in our kitchen, not everyone is, but we can turn down our thermostat on our boiler. This will save us quite a lot of money. As I've already said, use a microwave or air fryer, but also a slow cooker. It's really worth remembering that the things that cost us money in our homes are the things that we're making cold to hot or hot to cold. So when we're heating something, so when you're using your kettle, only boil the water that you need. When you're using a dishwasher or washing machine, make sure you do full loads. Always use the eco. It may take longer, but the cost of that electricity is very low in comparison to the cost of heating the water for a shorter run. Make sure you keep your fridges and your freezers, the doors closed in hot weather, but also importantly that they're properly defrosted, because the more frosted up your fridge and your freezer is, the more money it's going to be costing you. When you're cooking, keep your lids on your pans so that you can turn your gas or electric down. All of these things will make a really big difference to your bills over time. In our bathroom, there's a lovely avocado suite there. Hope you all can see that. I think we might start a new craze through these webinars. So in our bathrooms, fit low flow shower heads if you can, and maybe if you can, take shorter showers or fewer showers, and only heat the water that you need. I think we're all in the habit of thinking of water as something that's free. We just turn on the taps, flush the toilets whenever we want to, water our gardens, wash our cars, etc. And all of these things cost us money. Most people are on water meters now, so the more water we use, the more it's costing. But the most expensive element of using water is heating it. So if we can cut down on how much water we heat by using, as I've already said, eco settings on our appliances, having shorter showers, only using the water that you need. Even if you're boiling an egg, only put the water in that you need in the saucepan, it takes less. Just think about these things a little bit more. When you're washing up, use a washing up bowl. Don't fill up the sink or leave the tap running. And I think in these sort of post-COVID times where we're all washing our hands much more, if you turn the tap off while you're soaping, you can save a few litres doing that as well. in our lounge, our lovely chintz lounge there. Um, you can put radiator foil behind your radiator. So there's actual panels for that that you can use, or just ordinary ordinary tin foil behind your radiators will be just as beneficial. What that will do is insulate the wall a little bit so the heat isn't going out into the wall, and it will bring the heat, reflect it into the room. Try and wrap up a little bit, move a bit more, so you can turn your thermostat down by a degree or two. That way you'll save around about £60 a year, and switch your appliances off. Don't leave them on standby. Every little light that you can see shining away there on TVs, on microwave ovens, on your cooker, is costing you about £10 a year. When you leave things charging, or your charger's just plugged in all day long, that's also costing around about £10 a year if you do that regularly. And if you think that is for each appliance, so you can really make a big difference just by switching things off properly. I've already mentioned your washing machines, tumble dryers, dry outside when you can. If you do dry inside, be careful that you're not causing a condensation or damp problem. Just be really careful that you put clothes on an area that have got lots of room around them, preferably in a spare room or something we can just have the window open slightly, so that damp air can escape. And draft proof everywhere that you can. So around your windows, around your doors, your letterbox. If you haven't got a very well draft proofed front door, back door, even rolling up a towel and putting it along the bottom can make a big difference. So, as I said, that's a bit of energy advice for you, but please do look at the links, and you will have contact details at the end if you want to get in touch to get some bespoke energy advice for you. I'm going to talk about the Priority Service Register now. So this is a service for people who are more vulnerable. It's really easy to sign up to the Priority Service Register. We can help people do that if you want us to, but you literally just go online, Google it, or as my granddaughter says, eco-satiate it, because then you get some trees planted. Just go on and put in Priority Service Register. It will take you to it. There's one for water, there's one for gas and electricity. Really important. You can see here all the different things that people can be helped with. Now, we've already had warning that there may be some fuel rationing in the upcoming winter. So people that are on the Priority Service Register will get advance notice of these power cuts or any other that are coming up, and priority support in an emergency. There's some additional security measures that they can get help with, and for people that are asset rich and cash poor, often older people, can get a free gas safety check and help with meter readings, large scale and braille and so on for people with sight problems. So please do register for the Priority Service Registers if you can. Disconnection. So energy suppliers generally don't disconnect their customers. But if somebody has got a prepayment meter, they may self-disconnect by not putting money in or just turning off the gas and not using it. The thing that we need to worry about there is that just because somebody's not using it, it doesn't mean that the standing charge isn't still accruing for them. So we need to be careful that people aren't self-disconnecting. And in an ideal world, we want people to be warm and cozy in their homes anyway. So the Warm Homes discount, prior to this winter, we have had people having to, apart from if they were on guaranteed pension credit, having to apply for it themselves, but they no longer have to do that. 750,000 more people will be eligible than last year, and if people are on certain means tested benefits, they will get this Warm Homes discount automatically. Unfortunately, and these figures are from the NEA again, we think that close to 300,000 fewer people won't be eligible or may be struggling because of it. So there are separate winter fuel payments for pensioners if we get a cold snap. And then there's additional money during extremely cold weather, which people, if they're entitled to, will get automatically. So there's further schemes available to help clients. This could be around getting grants to help them with insulation or having heat pumps installed, all sorts of things around their home. I think there's the Green Grant Scheme, LAD Sustainable Warmth, there's Energy Company, Obligation and Eco. The reason I'm putting these slides up is just so that you know that there's help there. If somebody thinks that they may need help improving their home, please get them in touch and we can see what's available for them. Anyone that gets in touch with us, if they require it, can have a benefits check done with us. We're not money advisors, but we work closely with money advisors as well. So one of the things that we like to do is make every contact count. Some of you will be familiar with that. It's the MEC type of the MEC. Sorry, it's the making every contact count. So we approve people and put them over to other people for help when they need it and have them come back to us when we need it as well. So what can you do as frontline workers? So please be more aware of cold homes being an issue and the problems that fuel poverty can cause, particularly for people's health. Reassure your clients that there is help available. Encourage people to have annual MOTs to ensure their income is maximised and their energy bills are as low as possible, and refer and encourage vulnerable clients to ask us for health advice and energy efficiency information to reduce the risk of health problems associated with cold homes. If you put someone in touch with us, we'll be able to either signpost or enable. We can give supported assistance for people and also take on casework if it's required. So as this is this is a recording, there won't be any questions or comments, but if you do have any, please do get in touch on these contact details here, either through the referral form that's on the pact.org projects warm homes on our website, or through the email address that you can see there. People that get in touch with us will get a telephone call in the first instance and given advice over the phone, but we do home visits for people that really need it. So that's the end of the presentation. Thank you very much for watching. Take care and keep warm this winter.